We're going to propose a program called the Urban Green Markets Program, which will be a win-win. We're going to set up green markets in urban areas all across the state to get good food to inner-city communities, and these markets will be a host for the New York agricultural products. Last point, we must seize this moment of opportunity. New York is not alone in this situation. As a matter of fact, there are 8 states with fiscal conditions that are worse than New York. This is going to be a time of national transition. This is really an economic recalibration for states all across the nation. And that's what's really happening. As the economy is retrenched, states now have to recalibrate. There have been other times in our history where there have been transition periods, the agricultural transition, the industrial transition, high-tech transitions. In all those transitions, New York led the way, and New York came out first. Why? Because we were faster, we were more facile, we were more sophisticated, and we won in the transition. We can win in the transition again. And we can make January 5th, 2011, the day that we seize the opportunity and the state of New York strikes back. I want to leave you with one personal point, if I may, as the new governor. My colleagues in the legislature, at one point in my life, I went and joined the Clinton administration. I was a lifelong New Yorker, and Bill Clinton took office, and I had the opportunity to join the federal government, and I did. And it was a good experience. I needed it. I was one of those people who thought the New Yorker cartoon was the accurate depiction that the West Coast was really New Jersey. You know, I was a real New Yorker. So I went down at the beginning of the Clinton administration, Assistant Secretary at Department of Housing and Urban Development, and then I became a member of President Bill Clinton's cabinet. And it was a fascinating experience, and I got to work literally in every state in the nation. Many times when you're in the president's cabinet, your main utility is the president can't make an event. They scramble for a surrogate, and they send someone from the cabinet to be a surrogate. That was actually very tough duty, by the way. Can you imagine having to go out to Kansas to substitute for President Bill Clinton and get before a group that was expecting to see the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, and instead they get the HUD Secretary, Andrew Cuomo. But it was a learning experience for me. And literally every state, and I would be talking about every topic, and almost invariably, somehow they would figure out that I was from New York. I'm not really sure how, because I never told them, but they would figure out I was from New York, and at the end of the event, they would come up to me and almost without exception, whatever the topic, they would say, "What are you doing about this in New York?" It could be health care, it could be immigration, it could be taxation. "What do you do in New York?" And their eyes would be open wide. "What do you do about this in New York?" Why? Because we are New York. And because our history, our legacy was we took these difficult problems and we solved them first. And the rest of the nation learned from us. The other state governments looked to New York and they learned from us. I was running HUD, the Housing Economic Development. Most of the federal programs were modeled on state programs. Why? Because the New York government was the best. We were the most sophisticated, the most complex. The problems developed here first. We resolved them here first. We had the most caliber in our government. We were just the best, and we were the model for the nation. That's the history and the legacy of New York. This has been an aberration, this recent past, the dysfunction of Albany, the gridlock of Albany, the corruption of Albany. This is not the true story of the New York State Legislature. It's not who we are. It's not what we do. It's not why we're here. The New York State Legislature is the best legislature historically in the nation. The most talented people. That's who we are. That is who we are. And that's who we can be again. When I hear your leaders speaking about cooperation and a positive vision and change and doing things differently, I am so excited. Because the people of this state desperately, desperately need it. They need the government to work in a way they haven't needed the government to work in 20 years. They've seen the ugly, they've seen the gridlock, they've seen the corruption. Let them see how beautiful the government can be when it cooperates and it's enlightened and it's functioning and it's performing and it's putting the people above the special interests. Let this legislature be the legislature that stands up and says, yes, we're Democrats, but we're New Yorkers first. Yes, we're Republicans, but we're New Yorkers first. Yes, we're from downstate, but we're New Yorkers first. Yes, we're from upstate, but we're New Yorkers first, and that matters most. And we're here as New Yorkers, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, not as independents. We're here as New Yorkers to serve the people of the state of New York and help this state through this crisis. Let this 234th legislature stand up and write a new page in the history book of New York State government. Let this 234th legislature solve these problems at a time of crisis and bring this state to a place that it's never been. We're not just going to build back. We're going to build back bigger, stronger than ever before. That's what we're going to do together. Thank you, and God bless you.
He ends on a very high note. It was 48 minutes for Andrew Cuomo. He spoke largely without, almost not looking down at his notes. There was that PowerPoint presentation. He was funny. He was charming. He lectured at some points. He was he convincing is the question. What do you think?
Well, I think what he did is he played to the larger public audience. He was playing to the 19 million New Yorkers. It just so happened that the 211 legislators were in the room. But he did so without insulting them and actually giving them a reason to be supportive. He came today with the carrots. I assume what we're going to see with the budget is the real hard-nosed Andrew Cuomo.
He opened with a sign of respect, of allowing the leaders to actually speak and to sit at the same level that he did. And he ended with a sign of respect. Actually, quite extraordinary spin on the problems of the last decade by going like this: corruption in Albany, dysfunction in Albany, as if somehow that's not fair.
Right? This isn't who we are.
That's historically not who we are.
Right. An aberration.
But he very cleverly laid it in a soft-gloved way at the door of the legislature, not only being responsible for what has happened, but responsible for making it go away.
And reminding the public, I am aware of what's been going on for the last 10, 20 years here. I know you hate it, and I'm going to be the cop who comes in to clean it up.
Yeah, it was a very interesting. I mean, he talked about, I'm just reviewing some of my notes here, he talked about being the best and the model for the nation. This is something that he had talked about on the campaign trail. You've actually heard him talk